Welcome back to another episode of Simply Robotics, the podcast. I'm your host, Monique, and I am joined by my lovely, awesome, and amazing friend, Jaren, who was with me in the first episode of the What If recap, and Alex, who, made a special request. She was like, I don't mean to crash your show, but I need to talk about this. You can find me on all social media platforms at Simplyrobotics. The hashtag for the show is Simplyrobotixpod. And don't worry, my guests will share their social media info and all that stuff at the end of the episode. So to get started, who wants to take it away with, again, is it The Watcher and the intro? Because I actually didn't go back and watch the first episode, but I'm pretty sure he didn't say this last time. He's saying new stuff, right?
I think it was the same thing, but shorter. From what I understand, what his little monologue is word for word from the comic books. That's just what I heard because I haven't read the comics myself, but okay. I believe it's the same thing, just a little shorter this time.
Yeah. So just to preface this, What If is based off of variant comics. So within all comics, they have what you call a trade, which is the entire storyline. Within that trade, there's always a variant, and the variant is basically the what if. So say they're talking about Spider-Man. What if Spider-Man got to go in space for a day? That's literally the variant comic. So they can tell a different story, but it doesn't necessarily mess around with the same story that they're telling. It's just kind of like a what if. But in the comics, variants are usually very dark. So something tragic usually always happens. And in the end, the Watcher's just kind of glad that's not our universe, right? And then they move on into the next thing. Did I freeze?
You did a little bit, but it's okay. It's completely fine.
But yeah, so the Watcher always has a spiel at the beginning of the comic, or he'll have a spiel at the beginning and basically say this is how a wrinkle in time or one decision can cause a ripple effect in the universe and change a whole universe essentially. And that's basically what he gets into.
He goes
into whatever story he's going to tell.
I wrote down, right as I guess maybe he said the same things that he said last week. Mm-hmm. The one thing that stood out to me was that he was just talking about your destiny. And he said, is your destiny determined by your nature or the nature of your nature of your world, right? So that's interesting because we go into T'Challa, who is not the Black Panther in this episode. And I'm like, oh, so he's not the Black Panther because he's not in the world to become Black Panther, so what's his kind of destiny? Or does he end up becoming the Black Panther because, just to jump ahead all the way to the end, he's
not the Black Panther yet.
Right. So, so maybe does he still...
I have thoughts on that, but I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the end.
Yeah. So I just, when I heard the Watcher say that, I was like, oh, does he say the same thing every time? But again, when I rewatched it today, I completely zoned out. So that's neither here or there. But yeah, so let's take it through the episode. I'm going to give it up to one of you to do that. Whoever wants to.
Alex, be my guest.
So starting from the beginning, again, quick reintroduction. My name is Alexandra the Great, aka T'Challa's baby mama.
Okay.
So the very beginning of the episode, we see young T'Challa and T'Chaka, of course. And T'Chaka is actually voiced by the same actor who played him in the movie. The actor who played older T'Chaka voiced both young and older T'Chaka in this episode. And it's starting off with just T'Challa's look, I'm trying to go out and run these streets, but Dad won't let me go. He ends up playing in the field, throws a spear outside of the Wakandan borders, goes through the force field like we see them do. And Yondu, instead of Yondu coming to Earth to find Peter Quill, because that was the intention, he sent out his assistants or whatever to do it for him.
He sent out Razorface and I can't remember the other guy's
Razorface and or was it Taserface? That's funnier. And so the lackeys basically are look, the alien waves were off the charts, so we picked up this kid because we thought that was him.
I thought it was funny. They were just they all look the same.
I know, and Yondu had little hologram of Peter Quill, and he's holding it up to T'Challa. Do these look the same? And they're yeah, he got two eyes, got two ears,
eye holes, a mouth hole, and two ear holes. They all look the same.
And we're all like,
humans look alike to me, and I was like, wow, the racism. It's like,
Can we talk about how
speciesism?
T'Challa wasn't scared at all? He was just like, what's good?
Yeah, he's like, I've been waiting for this. I've been bored here in Wakanda.
I mean, he grew up in Wakanda. The technology that they have there was probably even better than Yondu's ship. So he was like, oh, okay, this is cute. You know, me and my dad be riding around the G-Wagon. You got this cute little Honda Accord. That's cute for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he not new to this.
Yeah, so well, actually, even before that, the episode starts off in present time, right? Where we see T'Challa as an adult, and he's actually Starlord in that moment. And we get to see
mirror Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Is it Guardians of the Galaxy 2? No, Guardians of the Galaxy
the first 1. You're absolutely right. I skipped all over the
I just remember that. I was like, wait, we did something before that.
So they mirrored the scene where I can't remember the character he was playing. Hansu's character is there to capture T'Challa. He's Starlord, and he's there to steal the orb. And come to find out, T'Challa got a whole like beehive. Like he has a whole like Starlord hive. He's like they're his biggest fans, and they're like praising him and everything. And it's supposed to turn into like this epic fight scene, but T'Challa, being the diplomat that he is, turns it into a training session.
Basically, yes.
And then ends up recruiting.
Famous. Seeing God, what was his name? I tried to look it up online too. I couldn't find it. Whatever his name was, him being a fangirl threw me off a little bit. like in the very beginning instance, he was like, "Oh, you Starlord!" Like that was a good little switch up. Because when Peter Quill was Starlord, he was like, "I don't know who you are."
Right.
But the real switch up was that T'Challa, because he's basically running through that whole line that Peter Quill says in the movie. He's like explorer of the galaxy. He does all these things, all this other stuff. T'Challa, but he wasn't actually doing all of that stuff in the movie.
Right.
T'Challa's actually doing all of those things. And then on top of that, he's like the intergalactic Robin Hood. So he's like stealing from the rich and giving to the needy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So seeing him being a fanboy at first was funny, but I feel like it went on a little too long.
It did. Yeah. It went on like the whole episode. So they start off in present day, and then they do that flashback that you mentioned, Alex. And I thought that was great because as we're seeing T'Challa as Starlord, I'm there like, so how do we even get here, actually? And then bam, flashback, explains everything, takes us back into the present day. And then we see like T'Challa's in a nightclub with the scavengers crew or whatever.
Ravagers.
I don't know words. And they're just kind of talking and remembering or recounting of all of T'Challa's like highlight moments.
Hits. Yeah, it's almost like a greatest hits playlist.
Right. And then there's a comment about like, how did you get Thanos to like not do the snap? And then who do we see?
He just pulled up at the spot with his drink, like, what up, bro?
So like mellow, so like, I mean, that's him still, but so like somber and chill. And I'm like, yeah, this is like,
you know, we had a little talk, we talked it out, and we reasoned. I'm like, he's supposed to be the Mad Titan. You don't reason with someone called the Mad Titan. So we need a little bit more context on how this works. And he was like, oh, you know, who would have thought that all you needed was I think he said a good debate or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. Someone needed to talk to him. So it makes sense to me because pretty much what they said was everything we've been saying on the internet for years. Like, bruh, I get what you're trying to do, but this is genocide. Can we not?
Yeah.
But what's so crazy is he changed his mind simply by doing what the Avengers never even thought to do, was offer a freaking alternative.
Right. And he said that. He said by talking to T'Challa that he like, you know, was exposed to that there's more than one way to reallocate the resources. And it's like, yes, if someone maybe would have just tried to talk to Thanos, but also was that version of Thanos in a space to receive a conversation?
I think that's the other thing. I think he got to Thanos before he started
getting the
stones, and because here's something else I didn't like. Miss Cha-Cha, college T'Challa Cha-Cha.
Oh, I didn't like that at all.
I like that.
It was like cringe.
How, you know,
it's your highness to you, Miss Thing.
Okay. You know how like white people sometimes will hear your ethnic name and they'll just be like, I'm gonna call you Gigi instead. Girl, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
I ain't like that.
I ain't like that.
Also took me a minute. I was like, why she call him Cha-Cha? Did he dance or something? But it's
But then I think they were
T'Challa.
trying to show like they've known each other for a long time, like they basically grew up together, but still,
I mean,
Yeah.
call him T Money
I
or
like
something.
it.
I don't know. Not Cha-Cha.
And
Yeah.
I
So
also think she's how he got to Thanos so early, because later on everybody basically finds out that they're father and daughter, and he's like, it's a long story. I've been trying to get them in counseling for like forever. So I'm like, oh, they go way back.
true,
Mhm.
true. Yeah. So I mean, still take turns. Anyone want to take us through the rest of the episode? We're in the nightclub, and then we keep moving forward.
So what happened post nightclub? I literally just watched the episode. Oh my gosh.
He gets proposed with a heist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nebula proposes a heist they're supposed to go and steal embers
Yes. Embers
from the
from
collector.
the Collector, which is such a snazzy character. Like,
He reminds me a lot of old dude in Thor Ragnarok.
I was just about to say
Like, he
that.
was, what's his? I can't believe his name is
Man,
Jurassic
no
Park. What's his name?
I don't know. I don't even know people's names.
Oh my goodness. How we forget Zaddy's name? It's right. I'm looking at his face in my head. Hold on. Un momento. I'm gonna do some Googles. Continue.
Yeah, so they get the plan to do this heist to steal these embers that could like
Jeff Goldblum.
Boom.
Sorry.
Thank you. So they can like heal a bunch of worlds, right? Not a bunch of galaxies, or it's a bunch of worlds.
I think worlds.
I think worlds. So anyway,
Yeah, I think they're trying to heal the galaxy. They're trying to end hunger across the galaxy.
okay. So, they're just continuing to level up this whole Robin Hood thing. So they get this plan. They're going to create like a diversion. They're going to get into his collectible stuff. They're going to get these embers. And, they just start to do the plan into action. And then as it's happening, we learn that there's at least one or two plans within the plan that not everybody was aware about. And as T'Challa is like, in the collector's collection space or whatever, he passes by a Wakanda ship.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all know if you want to?
Yeah, how did y'all feel when y'all heard
because
the
of the
drum?
vibranium on his neck?
Right, the vibranium started like tingling and lightening up.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say,
How did y'all
Jaren?
feel when y'all heard those drums?
Man, I was ready. As soon as the drums hit, I said, "Oh!"
I had a little
yeah,
here.
yeah.
As soon as I heard that little do-do-do-do, I was like, "Oh, here we go!" I was ready. And then when he goes in the ship, before he even sees the message that his father left, the body sitting in the seat
I was like, are they gonna move?
Closed.
Yeah,
I think those were decoys.
Confused. I'm confused about who was piloting the ship. Was it robot driven, or did the Doras who flew the ship die? Because I'm confused.
So okay, in the run that Ta-Nehisi Coates did, Ta-Nehisi did a run of for the Black Panther comics.
Mm-hmm.
In his run, there is an intergalactic version of Wakanda, and that was basically launched in this universe. That was basically launched so that they could find T'Challa because he's the heir to the throne. Like the heir to the throne just can't go missing.
Right.
So I think, but they're also, he finds this in the collector's archive, I guess you could call it, or his gallery.
Unit.
So I wonder if those were just like, he's very like pomp and circumstance. So I wonder if he just set up those decoys just so he could finish the piece.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, they sent that spaceship out into space to find T'Challa. And that's basically how he finds out because he earlier in a conversation with Nebula, he was saying, she was like, why don't you just go home? Like, why are you doing all of this? You could go home and not worry about everything that's going on in the galaxy. And he's basically like, he thinks his home. Zandu told him that he tried to take him home, but he found out that Wakanda was destroyed, which we all know
ain't no way
is indestructible.
Like, come on now. Ain't no way.
Ain't no way.
But T'Challa being a kid, he took this as fact, and he finds out when he's in the ship that that is not the case.
Right. And
I'm glad that we were wrong about that, because when they said Wakanda was destroyed, I was like, that doesn't sound right. But this is what if. And I was about to be really blown if that was actually true. I was like, I don't know how, but I just felt like it was going to be true just because I didn't want it to be. But I'm glad it's not.
Yeah. Just to double back to like it being in the ship and the bodies, it did feel very much like a museum, like a collector would pop up the tire, put him in mannequins to give it a real authentic feel. While he's in the ship, like what are words? A hologram pops up.
Yeah.
Where his dad, and you see that it's like a call just saying like, we're searching for T'Challa, whatever. Someone like let us know, whatever, all that sort of stuff. And T'Challa, comes to the realization like they're like alive, whatever. They're looking for me. Like everything that Yondu has told me was false and all sorts of stuff. And in that moment, Nebula comes in, and that's where we're like, we're supposed to believe the alley-oop that she actually set everybody up. And hands over Yondu and T'Challa and some of T'Challa's people, the Ravagers, over to the Collector. And then there's like an off-script moment because Yondu didn't know that T'Challa was going to find out the truth in this whole scheme of things. And he confronts him about it. And, there's... I don't think I really have much more to say on that, actually. It was just interesting. I was like, oh, okay. It's like a real personal family moment that you feel like you want to step back from, like, and you just can't. You're kind of forced to be in the moment with them.
And Taserface like acknowledged it. He was like, "Is this like a mission thing or is this like a family thing?"
And they're like, "Oh no, it's a family thing.
It's a family thing." But there ain't nowhere to go. It's like when you're at your friend's house and their mom start cussing them out because of something they did, and you ain't got nowhere to go. You just sitting on the couch like,
I just wish I could disappear.
Yeah. I'm just like, I didn't see that. We don't have to talk about this. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it back to you all. Anyone wants to continue with the breakout of the jail cell?
Before we get to that part, when I realized that this was like a heist type thing, my brain had like a little bit of a glitch because of the Rick and Morty episode that makes you kind of hate heist movies.
Oh, no,
I think it was season 4. That heist episode instantly popped into my head while I was watching this. I was like, no, not a heist episode. But no, it was actually good. Like, I had to deprogram myself from Rick and Morty in that moment.
So for people who aren't familiar for Rick and Morty, why did that episode make you hate heist movies?
Because Rick made heist movies seem dumb because basically he created a heist for Morty to show that heists were dumb, but then it became another heist inside of a heist, and then a robot plus another robot. But it was a mess. If y'all haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure it was in season 4.
Okay.
But I don't want to get too far off subject. That was just a thought I had when I first watched the episode.
Yeah. So anyone, if you want to continue from them breaking out the jail cell?
We skipped over a big chunk of how he got into the jail cell.
It was
so
okay.
When they pull up to the Collector, we see, I refer to them as the children of Thanos. They work in security now for the Collector. Of course, the Ravagers put on a distraction to distract them, and so they can get in to the Collector's like actual archives. T'Challa is trying to find the embers that he needs to steal, and he runs into who other than Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck always manages to make an appearance somewhere within the Marvel franchise. You will never miss how he's always there. Sometimes you might have to look a little harder than other times, but Howard the Duck is always there.
And Seth Rogen did his voice.
Yes,
this time.
He did a good job too. He did a really good job.
He did a really good job.
He did, because I know it was Seth Rogen. I was not paying attention.
He's giving him these crazy directions to find it, and Charlie's like, you know what? He busts open the glass, lets him out. He was like, just show me, give me the tour, show me the way. So Howard the Duck is trying to show him the way, gets distracted because it's happy hour. Was like, I need a little drinky drink. By then, Thanos' children or former children figure out that it's a distraction, and they ring the alarm, and all hell breaks loose. And T'Challa got to make a run for it, and I think he ends up running into the Collector.
No, that's how he ends up in the thing.
No, that's how he ends up in the cell. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, he ends up at the ship.
Yes, that's how he ends up at the ship.
Yeah.
And then the ship is how he ends up. Oh, girl pretends like she's double crossing him. That's how he ends up in the cell.
Yes. And then how do they get out of the cell?
With that vibranium necklace. You can't, there's nothing stronger than it. He literally, and he put it in between his fingers, kind of like Wolverine. So I was like, I don't know if that's like a nod, because we've been waiting for the X-Men to show up at some point.
Might have to keep waiting.
He puts the vibranium teeth in his hand, and boom, punches right through the glass like it was nothing.
So as I don't even know how they get back into the facing the Collector. But some of the Ravagers, right, make it to a ship, and it in that moment, like Nebula and Thanos are kind of having like a bonding moment a little bit, and she goes off like he's like, I got this, and he's doing some fighting, and there's a moment where like I was like, I'm feeling bad for Thanos because he's getting beat like legit.
I have a theory.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but what he's getting beat, he's getting stomped on, and I was like, are they really gonna go for it and do this? Like, you know, whatever, because it's Disney and it's on Disney Plus, but I'm not too sure. But I wasn't really ready to feel like sympathetic and empathetic for Thanos like again so soon. What's your theory?
I think that whole thing was a setup so he could get closer to Nebula. I think he did that because Thanos he's legit a Titan. He's like, I think he's one of the Eternals. So him fighting that whole crew wasn't like Thanos was bulletproof. He was getting hit with them lasers, and they wasn't doing nothing but flopping off of him. So I think he did that. So Nebula would be like, oh, he's sacrificing himself for me. He could be like, yeah. So don't be mad at me no more.
Same man who could beat the Hulk, like
right?
Yes.
And he actually had a Hulk moment when I don't know what she said, but he said that he was mad. And it reminded me of when the Hulk always is like, I'm always angry. He had a little Hulk moment before that fight. But you do have a point. He might be trying to get closer to her because we do know that in this season, Gamora is going to be the new Thanos. So he probably doesn't have time to know that. Oh yeah, that's coming up.
Okay.
I saw in the either a trailer or preview or whatever, she's wearing the whole gold Thanos outfit with the little giant blade and everything.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. Okay.
Yes.
So while all of this is going on, one way or another, T'Challa and Yondu are like getting ready. Well, actually, T'Challa has a moment where he's squaring up with the Collector, right? Is that also in this moment now where the Collector's like, look at this weapon, look at like that weapon, you know, whatever. And
he had Hela's crown.
That was I actually really liked that.
And then I was like, well, what happened to Hela?
I have questions.
She was one of my favorite villains.
There was Hela's crown. There was Krog's arm. Like it was like literally just his arm. There was Captain America's shield.
Yes.
There was a Star Wars ship somewhere in the background. But there was like a bunch of he had basically like a whole setup of Avengers memorabilia. So I'm just like, what happened to the Avengers in this universe? Like, did something catastrophic happen? And he just went and was like, let me get my collectibles while I can. Because I'm just like, is that shield still a vibranium shield? Like, how does Wakanda not know that you have their vibranium shield?
Right.
I mean, he has their vibranium ship as well. So
I'm just like, oh.
True. So I don't remember exactly where that moment fits in, but eventually Yondu and T'Challa come up with this plan. I forget what they called it, like a something step, something sneak, something.
Oh, that was Sticky Fingers.
Sticky Fingers.
That part reminded me of Thor and Loki doing send help.
Get help.
Yeah, get help. That was a very get help moment. I liked it.
Cool.
It's like a bait and switch.
Yeah, and it
like,
worked.
Who's gonna be the glue? Who's gonna be sticky? He was like, you, since you lied to me.
I was like, yeah, you have a point there. Okay. So they do that. They get the Collector's like arm bracket bracelet thing, lock him up, and they basically make it onto the ship with everybody else. They go back to Wakanda. T'Challa is reunited with his birth family and introduces him to his new acquired family. And there's a moment where T'Chaka, that's Dad's name, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So T'Chaka is like, asks Yondu, so how did you even end up like with my son? And T'Challa just, covers it and says, well, he just found me, like I was lost and he found me. And I was like, oh, that's so nice and sweet. And they had a nice memorial at the end of the episode to Chadwick Boseman, and it was very heartfelt. I think the whole episode, the whole episode just like, tugs at your heartstrings multiple times, maybe throughout the whole thing, because you're hearing Chadwick's voice. You're just, remembering his contribution to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they say like, yeah, this is like his last performance. So that like concludes.
I wonder if it is, or if he's going to show up again later on in the season.
He is showing up again later in the season, but this was his specific episode.
Right. But in the show, what if this is going to be the last capacity we get him as Black Panther?
Oh, no. He'll be back.
In the movies?
No, not in the movies. In What If.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah,
like
this series is like his last performance.
Understood. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the plot. Again, we talked about this, Jan and I, a little bit last episode about the animation style. Alex, how do you feel about the animation style of What If this episode? There's not really that much difference between episode 1 and 2, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm cool with the animation style. It all looks like more the modern comic books, the way they drew everything. So, I think it moves pretty smoothly. And, I'm not a big animation expert, but I watch a lot of animation. So there wasn't really anything jarring. Between the first 2 episodes, everything seemed pretty smooth. Yeah, and whoever drew these like real life people into animated characters, been in their bag because everybody looks just like their actor.
Yeah.
They did a good job.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it reminds me a lot of rotoscoping, but smoother.
Yeah, like you can tell, like you've said, Jaren, too, like they definitely took like an artistic pass on top of this. Like they didn't just leave it so CGI or so super realistic feeling and whatever.
There's
they tried to
drawn aspects.
To make it still a little bit artsy. I still feel like it reminds me a lot of like video games, like when video games have that cinematic break in between your gameplay, and I'm probably not going to get away from that. So
all I kept thinking was like action figure. That's what I see when I see them like interacting. I'm like, these are action figures.
Yeah, and did you guys have any more additional comments about the music? Because I know when we were hearing the Wakanda drums and we were hearing the little choo 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 thing too.
It was just good to hear it. It was good to hear it. And it was cool to hear it like in space versus just being on Earth within like, because you only hear it within like the Wakandan context. So it was cool to hear it outside of Wakanda. It's just it's like a beacon.
Yeah, and hearing it outside of Wakanda it's kind of like a auditory way of symbolizing how he is still connected to his home, even though he's been gone for so long. Because like you said, we literally have only heard that music in Wakanda, but now we're hearing it gajillions of miles away in space. Like he is part of Wakanda. It goes with him. I really like that.
Were there any additional Easter eggs that you guys spotted in this episode?
I forgot to mention the very beginning when the fanboy, whose name I still can't figure out, when he first ran into T'Challa, was calling him Starlord and freaking out. Thank you.
It just like popped in. It's Korra.
Thank you. No, you're helping me. So where Korra shows up and he like tried to kneel and stuff, and T'Challa was like, chill out. It was giving me the same energy as when they came to Wakanda in Infinity War and he was like, we don't do that here. Yeah, I felt like the same energy as well. I'm not sure if I can think of any Easter eggs other than that. I also don't understand Nebula's wig. It was not giving what it was supposed to give. It bothered me.
Basically, this is Nebula. This is, I can't remember the comic, the trade this is from, but this pulls for a little. This is like paying homage to the comics. So because Thanos didn't do his whole genocide, right? He didn't experiment as much. Because remember, at one point, in the movies,
she was like
Nebula's like, she was like, I'm basically a machine now. She's not machine. She was like, I think she has like a mechanical eye, and that's pretty much it. So she's able to grow hair. She's able to do. But there's a comic, I can't remember. I should have wrote it down. But there's one where she basically goes undercover, and part of her going undercover is like wearing blonde hair. She's like a spy in a way.
The Collector did point out that her eye was like messed up or something.
Yeah.
So maybe Thanos had started, but it had like stopped.
Well, I think that's what he was coming to collect on, because I think she was still making payments on her eye.
Maybe so.
I think she got
maybe
that
was it.
And she was like, he came to collect, and I need this eye, so help me out.
Jaren,
she paid all that money for that eye and then covered it up. What's the tea? Like,
Jaren, were you gonna mention an Easter egg? Because
Drax. We forgot about Drax.
Yes.
Oh my god. almost knocked my laptop over. You're right.
Yeah, we sure did. He was like in the bar, the cashier or whatever.
Yeah, he's a bartender.
Now.
Yeah, the bartender.
So because Thanos again doesn't commit genocide, he doesn't end up murdering Drax's family and his like whole race. So Drax is like moonlighting as a bartender because he got an old lady and a baby to take care of. And he was like, he fangirled out too when he saw T'Challa.
Sure did.
He was like, we're gonna take pictures because you saved my family and my home planet. He was like, oh, all in a day's work. He was like, no, it took 6 days actually.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, there's Drax.
Yes.
He's still. I love how like, even though this is what if and they kind of divert a little bit, everybody is who they are at their core for the most part. Like T'Challa being the Black Panther is not what made him a good person. He was a good person at his core.
Right.
Like he was always going to be a leader. He was always going to be diplomatic just because, and I don't know if that's just because he's like he's royalty, but at his core, he was always a good person. He was always looking to help others.
Mm-hmm. And Drax's planet must be where he met Thanos, based off of that comment he made. Like, you saved my family. That must be the exact place where he met Thanos and like made him chill out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I think Drax also, his character in this episode is a good example too about like, despite it being animated, you're still getting the full experience of the character because he's the voice. It's the same voice actor, live action actor is the voice actor, and it's just
not for Drax.
Nah,
that was not Dave Bautista.
No. Oh, well, I don't know.
He just did a really good job. I don't know who it was.
For the most part, everybody came back, but not Dave Bautista.
Yeah, Dave Bautista, I think, was the only one who didn't come back for their role. Everyone else did their original role.
That's why y'all are here. Thank you. I thought he did a great job. I felt the same about him. Like, yeah, the character in the movies and the animated character were just very, very in sync for me. So, were there any low moments in the episode for you?
Honestly, no. I felt like it was perfect. But I have like imaginary beef with the ending.
Okay.
And I call it imaginary because we don't have an actual answer, right? So when he comes back home to Wakanda, I feel like in a way it's a little implied that he's going to be king one day. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he should be. Because, I mean, it's not his fault that he wasn't there, but he wasn't there. And also the fact that Shuri most likely wasn't even born yet when he went missing. So when Shuri is born, Shuri is automatically the heir. Like, she's the one being raised up to be on the throne one day because they don't know if they're going to get T'Challa back.
That's not how it worked. He pulled up, so all bets are off.
See, I don't like that.
It's always
they wouldn't still have to do the fighting thing? No?
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't even know if that applies in this universe.
I know. Oh, true. Oh, it would be so tight if T'Challa and Shuri had to fight.
No, I don't want them to fight.
I do.
Okay, this is crazy. There is a trade where they do like the day where everybody fights, except they don't fight each other. Like, literally, Shuri's like, I'm gonna fight. I want to get it in. I'm gonna be the next in line for the throne. And I think T'Challa and their mom conspired to have Shuri locked up because it was like, no, you're not gonna be out in these streets fighting. You're gonna be a lady. So she manages to get out, and then they find out. I think it's their uncle they have to fight. Not yeah, I think it's one of their uncles. It's like their uncle is next in line for the throne.
Killmonger's dead?
Huh?
Killmonger's dead?
No, in this version of the comic book, Killmonger doesn't come into play yet.
Oh, okay.
So in the comics, Killmonger is a thing, but he's not a direct blood relative. So the character that M'Baku played is usually the villain for Black Panther.
Right. He was
in the comics. It's very controversial because this was during the 70s. So he's like, his name was Ape Man. It was like a whole thing. He wore like an ape's costume. He walked around on his hands and he would growl all the time. So they had to kind of like restructure all of that. But usually that's who his villain is. Killmonger comes like a little bit later down the line, and his whole story is different too. There's a like a whole thing. And then like the character that what's his name? He's Captain America's best friend.
Bucky.
Bucky ends up being the White Wolf in the cinematic universe. In the comics, the White Wolf is actually T'Challa's half brother. And they don't find out about him. T'Chaka
the tea is high.
Yeah.
The tea was high.
Which comic is this?
Like they had to redo they had to give Black Panther like a whole thing because like a lot of people don't know the Dora Milaje were actually like, yes, that was his guard, but they're actually his ladies in waiting. But he makes it very clear once it's time for him to like start coming up for the throne. He's like, I don't love none of these girls. I don't want to marry none of them. But in fact, there's one of them that's like obsessed with him. And she like,
It was Nakia.
She
Nakia was Adora, and she was obsessed with him, and he ain't want her back. So then she turned evil. She was going to kill him and everybody else. Yo,
it was giving very much love and hip hop.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
They had to give it a total rebrand.
So, I honestly feel like they could still make Nakia a villain in the movies, but that's another story for another day. Like literally, if they want to hit me up, I have the whole plot for how it would make sense for Nakia to go from love interest to villain. I could actually make that happen in the movies. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, we're coming down to the end of our time today. Do you all
what did y'all feel like for our overall theme? Like, did y'all feel like there was an overall theme of the episode, or
you know, I don't know if I want to say this yet, but I'm just not sure of my feelings for the show in its entirety yet. Like I liked this episode. I can appreciate what the first episode was doing, but I'm not sure about my feelings overall yet. So we'll continue, you know, we're going to keep talking about it and maybe I'll have something clear. But I thought that this was just good. Like it was just different. So, you know, I didn't hate it.
I think theme wise, I can kind of see a similar thing in both of the first two episodes where like no matter what happens or what environment you're in, you are who you are regardless.
Yeah.
Like
that nature versus nurture type of thing.
Yeah, because Steve never became Captain America, but he was still very active. He was still trying to be a hero and help, right? He was still extremely brave. Like he nearly sacrificed himself for Captain Carter and the rest of them. Same thing, episode 2. T'Challa was taken from Wakanda at a very young age, but he still grew up to be the same kind and giving leader that we knew him to be in the movie. So
it was just good to hear him
nature is strong.
Yeah. So with what you're saying, Alex, then if Gamora is going to be like Thanos, then I would like to see how that applies for her too, who she is at her core, you know.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
Because usually variants end very tragically. So I'm curious to see, is she going to be the one that we don't get a happy ending from? Well, we kind of didn't get a happy ending in the first episode, but I wonder if she's going to be the one to actually like carry out her mission and they're going to have to do like a total galaxy reset with her.
I mean, she ended up dying in Infinity War, so she might die in What If. Who knows?
But I also wonder if Quill is going to end up being the big bad for this universe.
Yeah, that's the other thing, because Ego did go down to get his boy. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, sure
and
did.
Quill was just a regular old white boy working at the local Dairy Queen. You don't have no Gamora and Drax and everybody to kind of like shape him. Because in Guardians of the Galaxy, like T'Challa was born a leader. He already knew how to be a leader from a child. Whereas in Guardians of the Galaxy, Peter Quill kind of had to like learn to be a leader. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if he doesn't have all the. Still wasn't good at it. But
I still got beef with him after Infinity War.
That's fair.
Oh.
Can I tell y'all, T'Challa ate him up in this episode?
He sure did.
Made him look like the worst of the worst.
Like we already didn't like him. Now we definitely don't like him because look at the material.
Yeah,
you can't compete where you can't compare. Like, come
wasn't
on.
Given what it was supposed to give.
No, it was
not. Bars. Yeah. So this is our episode. Can you tell? We'll start because Darren, because you've been here, right? Just real quick, tell people how they can find you, and then Alex, you as well.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Darren Merchant. Hit me up, tell me, say hey. I haven't posted in a while, but I'll interact if you interact with me.
Again, my name is Alexandra the Great. You can find me at The Great Cosplay on Twitter and Instagram. At Alexandra the Great Cosplay on TikTok. I haven't really posted on any of those, but I'm about to start making content again real soon too. So everybody look out for that.
What's great about Alex, Alex has so much cosplay content on TikTok. So it's fine already. Just go back and she even did like a top 10, I think, for last year. And I found myself going back down all of your stuff. It was like so good. So yeah, again, Thank you everyone for checking this out. Thank you for your support on the first episode. I'm looking forward to continuing this. Again, me on all social media platforms at Simplyrobotics. And until next time, thank you again for joining me. Appreciate it. Bye.
Yay! Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Wakanda forever.